Two of the ACC coaches on the hottest seats happen to open up the season as heavy underdogs against marquee SEC opponents. It could get ugly real fast. Let's bring in the squad.
You're talking ball with the ACC Squad, sponsored by Game Time. From Florida State to North Carolina, from Syracuse to Miami, and from NC State to California, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming ACC weekend. Hang on, it could get loud, it could get heated, and it will definitely be fun. Squad up, you're part of the ACC Squad.
Shout out to the everydayers, and thank you so much for making the ACC Squad your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this loaded episode, we got to weigh in on the Nick Saban rumors. I mean, if Saban is really interested in coming back to coaching, which ACC program would he fit in with best? Want to talk about top 50 college players according to Pro Football Focus. Clemson, spoiler alert, is really, really well represented. But let's talk about coaches on the hot seat. Now, Kenton Gibbs, by the way, we got Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack, Grayson Boone from Locked On Wolfpack, Jackson Holzer from Locked On Syracuse. I am Alex Dono from Locked On Canes. Kenton and I also host Locked On ACC, and we were talking about ACC coaches on the hot seat, Kenton. But, two of those top four, Brent Pry at Virginia Tech, they rank as the hottest seat, according to CBS Sports. Mike Norvell at Florida State, I think he's got too big of a buyout to fire him anytime soon, but they have him at number 4. You look at the teams that their squads open up with week number 1. So you got South Carolina for Virginia Tech, and the Hokies are 9.5-point underdogs in that one. That one's going to be played at the neutral site in Atlanta. Florida State is going to host Alabama to open up the season, and they're 13-point underdogs. Kenton, I'll let you buy the first round. Are either of those games going to be won by an ACC team?
Well, I guess it's fitting for me to buy the first round because those coaches might have a buyout to do it in a few here. I'm worried about both of these teams, but much more worried about Florida State, and I'll tell you why. Although I believe that South Carolina is about an equivalent team to Alabama, maybe even better, and I know people are going to look at me crazy for that, but I really and truly believe that. The problem is Florida State has gone about this in a way they've given Alabama bulletin board material, and even beyond their starting quarterback giving Alabama bulletin board material, they have issues of continuity in a major way. I have told everybody that after last year, I have enough data on first-year transfer quarterbacks to know, by and large, for the most part, it's going to be an adjustment. Unless you're walking into a situation where you've got a bunch of guys around you who are stars or close to stars, like what Kyle McCord had last year. With all due respect to Meeks, he was the only one in that crew that was like, this is a fresh face. Who is he? Everybody else, Gadsden, we knew him. He was a ball player before then. Pena, he elevated a level last year, but even before then, we saw him as a legitimate threat. At Florida State, you're breaking in everything brand new out the gate against a Bama team where I'm just saying, man, you got deficiencies everywhere, and now your quarterback is throwing his old teammates under the bus. He's throwing DeBoer under the bus somehow, and they're not even on the same thing. It's very worrisome, as opposed to a Virginia Tech team where you bring back a starting quarterback that, although it feels like Groundhog's Day, we believe in him every year, this may finally be his moment to show up and show out big time. They bring back a lot of return production. Ali Jennings should be healthy this year. You're looking at a very different situation for those two teams. So I'm deeply worried that, Norvell's seat might be hot as fish grease by week 2.
Yeah, piggybacking off of Kenton here, I'm fascinated by Florida State this season because, the buyout was way too large last season, so you gut the entire staff outside of Norvell. You got to do what you got to do. This season, if you underperform, I doubt they'll be 2-10 again, but, if they underperform whatever that metric is for them this year, what do you do? Thomas Castellanos, I know y'all talked about him on here a couple weeks ago. I wasn't on here for that. What are you doing? What are you doing? I can understand being confident in yourself, being confident in your team. You're in a new scenario. You're excited about what they may bring. To say that Alabama doesn't have Nick Saban to save them and that, basically making out Kalen DeBoer just to be some regular guy. Brother, what are we doing? You quit on your team at Boston College. What ground do you have to stand on to act like you are, the superstar of this newfound Florida State team? Oh, best of luck to you. No, I don't know. I don't know what you do with Norvell if you underperform, at least on that level again. Brett Pry, I think, is, like you said, an interesting case for Virginia Tech again. He's catching a bunch of strays off of a video game, kind of funny enough. College Football 26, they have these new walkouts, and everybody's using Virginia Tech because they have Enter Sandman in the game. And I keep seeing the same comment. Man, this would be a lot cooler if Virginia Tech was a decent program again. Brett Pry, brother, you better wake up and smell the roses, because if you don't course correct there as well, he might be up out of here.
I think there are a couple more coaches that are very interesting to talk about. And how about Dono's guy, Mario Cristobal? What's his seat going to be like? Is this a year for Miami with Mario Cristobal where, okay, even if they underperform, he's still going to get another year? And that becomes the year where he's on the hot seat? Or could this be like a surprise sneak attack where if they go, Carson Beck and his health, that's kind of a concern. Not healthy. They underachieved this season. They go 5-7, 6-6 even. They just barely make a bowl. Is that going to save Mario Cristobal? Would they pull the plug there? And they have him at 7th on the list. And I just found that fascinating because with Cristobal, it's always a little weird. Always very good with recruiting. Last year, it seemed like it might be the year for Miami to finally get over the hump. Then obviously we know what happened at the end of the season, but that's so far in his tenure, the only time where they really came close to performing relative to expectations. So I'm just wondering, Dono, when is it going to be Mario Cristobal's potential time? Is it this year or is it maybe next year?
Here's the way that I look at it. I think ranking him 7th is about right with the buyout as the added context, because he's owed $56 million. But at the same time, though, they're a little inconsistent with that because Mike Norvell is owed more. I'm not sure his exact total, but it's a lot more than $56 million. So it's like the buyout was kind of taken out of context for Mike Norvell, but was kept in context with Mario Cristobal. So first of all, I mean, the question is, and you painted a scenario where, God forbid Carson Beck isn't healthy. I mean, as of right now, he is, so it would have to be a setback, for something to go sideways, but that possibility is always there to lose your starting quarterback. And yes, if Carson Beck were to go down, the drop-off is pretty massive because Miami's backup quarterback, Emory Williams, is the one who blew that bowl game where Cam Ward took the seat in the first half, and then, Williams couldn't complete a forward pass and couldn't hold the lead. So there is a big drop-off. Now, assuming a relatively healthy Miami team, including a healthy Carson Beck, I think, where Miami fans are drawing the bar this year as to what would be like a satisfying season would be get to the college football playoff. I don't think that's where Mario's bar is. Like, in order to really put him on the hot seat. Well, I mean, I guess it is, but Miami's also got a pretty tough non-conference schedule. So when, 2 of your non-con games are, against Notre Dame and against Florida, which you could see Miami hypothetically losing either or both of those football games. Like, it's hard to draw the line to actually fire the man or put him on the hot seat. It's probably more in the 7-win or the 8-win range, assuming your quarterback is healthy. So I think the seat could get warm for Cristobal if Miami underachieves this year. I think it would take a lot. It would take like a 6-win type of season for the seat to get outright hot, because, the other part of it is, Miami's administration, front office, whatever you want to call it, like, they really like Cristobal, and I think they value the stability that comes with him kind of being the CEO of the football program. So he's not skating on thin ice. Like, he is very well appreciated by the administration and the athletic department. So I'm not saying it's impossible to get on the hot seat. It happens all the time in college football, but I think it would have to be a really, really bad, which for Miami would be like 6 or 7 wins is bad. Like, for some schools out there, hey, you're bowl eligible, that's an okay season. It's obviously not the case for Miami, but it would take something really bad for him to get on the legit hot seat after this year.
The other reason why I brought it up is because we're talking about the matchups and Virginia Tech, having to play South Carolina and Florida State in week 1, having to play Alabama. Miami's got Notre Dame in week 1. What if Miami lays an egg in week 1 like those other teams do? Like, that's why I wanted to bring him up. It's like,
but I don't think getting beat by one of the best probably one of the best offensive line running back combinations in the nation in week 1 will be a killer for that season. Like, I don't think anybody will look at it that way. And even beyond that, that game is expected to be competitive. Alabama, Florida State, I kid you not.
And honestly, I think if that game is competitive,
that's what I was just about to say. If
So,
Florida State loses by a field goal, that's a win. That's a win. If Alabama gets a walk-off field goal to win that game, and now that is why Norvell's seat is so hot. We are talking about a situation where Mario could potentially win that game, and it may not move the needle exponentially to where everybody's in the Miami fan base like, he's good for years now. He beat Notre Dame. It's not that way. But we're talking about a Florida State program that all 4 of us have seen win at least one national championship in our lifetime. At least one. Actually, multiple, now that I think about it, in our lifetimes, except for Jackson maybe, because you were born when Syracuse won theirs. So I see this as a situation where that's a proud program, and we're talking about, hey, if you hang within 3, you did good. That's unacceptable for Florida State. In the grand scheme of things, that is unacceptable out of Florida State.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about, we can continue on this topic, but also top 50 players in college football this year. Pro Football Focus put out their list. Clemson absolutely dominates the top 10. So, I mean, Dabo Swinney, that's a coach who is not on the hot seat, nowhere close to it. You want to keep it locked right here. We got the squad assembled on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Folks, we've been having such a great time. The dog days of summer are more fun when you have FanDuel, and summer sports are in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. Guys, it's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you for making the squad your first listen and your first watch. So real quick, guys, I want to talk about some of the other coaches that are considered to be on that hot seat. So we mentioned Brent Pry at number 1. You got Justin Wilcox at Cal at number 2, Tony Elliott number 3 with UVA. So it's like on the Tony Elliott thing, I guess I'm just relieved to see that like Virginia would actually still care enough about their football program to even put him on the hot seat at this point with how much apathy has surrounded them. But definitely Justin Wilcox at number 2. I mean, Kenton, we've talked so much about this, how there's apparently a power struggle within that program with Ron Rivera as the GM and, you know, who's going to be calling the shots there. So, yeah, if Wilcox doesn't do some winning this year, he might be out.
I mean, Wilcox could be out, but I want to go back to Elliott for just a second here. Virginia's athletic director is in a very interesting position because you were once a national powerhouse in basketball, and then your coach quits right before the season, literally after basketball media days, right before the season. And then your women's basketball team turns out to be one of the worst in the conference. And then your baseball team isn't as good as they were advertised to be. We're up and down throughout the season at points in time. This is a situation where it doesn't matter how apathetic you are about that sport in particular, get off your behind and do something. You are an administrator that's paid handsomely to do a job to bring athletics to relevance or prominence in something. And so that's really a situation there. With Wilcox, I don't understand it. Based on Cal's expectations, based on the obstacles placed in front of Cal, even if we take away the internal power struggle, you are moving into a new conference on the other side of America. You could talk about SMU coming to ACC and how that's a step up and it's a difference. Guess the difference between Dallas and the East Coast in terms of time difference. Guess how much the time difference is, guys? An hour. You're looking at three of those for Cal. And we're saying, oh, yeah, you should be fine. Everything should be okay here. Oh, yeah, you should be okay replacing your starting quarterback, your top 4 running backs, your entire wide receiver room. Oh, by the way, you had a couple DBs get drafted last year. Oh, and your linebacking core that was phenomenal last year. All those guys are going too in terms of the guys that play big snaps. I don't understand what else Wilcox can do, or if you believe anything beyond like, hey, player retention is his job and his job solely. Well, hell, Cal, I don't know if y'all have the money to make that make sense for you. So I think Wilcox being on the hot seat is a little bit unfair, but, hey, fair is a place where you eat foods that'll kill you and get on terrible rides that'll kill you. So it don't exist in football.
What's interesting is I think like the expectations of these schools, like if you're Virginia, what are your expectations of your football team? I mean, from an outside perspective, I'd say probably 6-6 like that. Yeah. If you're getting anything more than 6-6 at UVA, respectfully, that's probably just a bonus. So if you're consistently not even reaching a bowl, even if it is Tony Elliott is your head coach, well, you're not meeting expectations. So I would expect a change to be made if that continues here in 2025. Cal, like Kenta was talking about, it's an interesting situation. Whether there's a power struggle there with Ron Rivera, I don't want to get into that. But with Cal, it's kind of the same thing. Although Cal used to have bigger aspirations than I'd say what they currently do. Like I grew up on Aaron Rodgers and Marshawn Lynch and Deshaun Jackson at Cal, or even Jared Goff somewhat recently at Cal. Great players coming out of Cal. We've kind of fallen off a bit from that. So what do you get out of Cal in 2025, especially when their program was essentially stripped all the way down to the studs with the transfer portal? I don't know. I mean, maybe Wilcox will be on the hot seat. I guess I wouldn't necessarily be surprised, but it's going to come back to expectations. What are you expecting from Cal Bears in 2025?
Well, along those same lines with Virginia and Tony Elliott, again, goes back to making a bowl. And you can make an argument that Tony Elliott probably should have been fired at the end of last year because he had been there for 3 years and not one single bowl appearance. And so now he's entering year 4. I mean, I don't care what school you are. If you are a power conference program, at bare minimum, the expectation for any new coach would have to be within 3 years, you elevate the team into bowl eligibility. That should just be the bare minimum of any program in the country. He's already been there for 3 years and they haven't made a bowl. So if they don't make it in year 4, he's gone. There is no discussion here. I don't care that it's Virginia football and, they should have low expectations. This isn't Virginia basketball. You got to make a bowl game in college football if you're playing in a power conference within 4 years of having a head coach. Otherwise, you simply don't care. In which case, that's fine. Don't spend any money then on football and go put it all into your whatever other programs you would like to do and just, release a press statement saying, hey, we don't care about football anymore. Don't come to our games. We don't care. Just do something like that. The other coach that's interesting here at number 6 is Dave Doran because it's same thing with expectations. He's actually done a really good job at NC State. He's just been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I think with NC State, I mean, Kenton and Grayson could probably speak more about it, but I feel like it's fatigue. We understand what NC State is now, and I don't know what's going to happen with them this year, but assuming it's another one of those typical Dave Doran years, it's going to be maybe some highs and maybe some lows, but they're always going to leave you wanting maybe just a little bit more at the end of every season. And some years that's good, right? Some years it's good, especially early on. But when you've had a coach for a very long time, eventually you're like, all right, I want more than what he's already been given. The question is, I guess we can talk about it in the third segment, what else is out there for NC State if they were to go get rid of Dave Doran, who has actually done a very good job for them?
I talked to, first off, for Elliott, I was for him being let go last season. Now, I don't call for coaches being fired often. I'm not against it, though. I wouldn't have been up in arms about that. But he did get the mulligan because of the shooting incident that happened in year 2, where it was like, oh, man, that kind of shook up the team in a major way. So that's most likely what got him that extra year. But in terms of Doran, I was talking to an older listener of Grayson and I's in terms of Locked On Wolfpack, and he used the phrase, you can spend forever with your wife, but not your girlfriend. And Doran's starting to feel like a long-term girlfriend. I said, oh, my God, that's
perfect.
I'm not going. He's married and I'm not. Okay, he's been married for 30-some odd years and I'm not. So I'm not going to go against his wisdom in terms of relationships. I can't even get off the date naps at this point. But I will look at him. I will look at that and I'll say I get the sentiment and the frustration of, again, Doran has raised the floor. The ceiling has not been raised. And so I understand why that fits the analogy of, well, if you were the guy, if you were the guy for the job, you would have got us to the levels that Chuck Amata had us at. You would have got us to the level that, and this is sad to say, but before Chuck, you got to go back to Dick Sheridan in the 80s having you at high levels. And you know, that was quite a time. But that, again, that's the 80s before Dono was even running around here playing football and whatnot. So, you know, you're looking at a situation where it's just I hate to call Doran the long-term girlfriend instead of wife, but it's starting to get to that point where it's like, we got to do something here, or else people are just going to get naturally agitated with the success that hasn't been attained.
Jackson and Kenton both said it well. It is fatigue. And as plainly as I can put it for NC State fans, like an encapsulation here, NC State fans just want to play for something. They want to feel like they're in contention for some kind of something, whether that's an ACC championship or a 10-win season, a New Year's Six Bowl. We've had none of that. In 13 years, we don't have a single one of those instances to show for. And so that's why you see NC State fans, football season's coming up, they're like, oh, can we just talk about basketball? I never thought we'd say this, but can we just fast forward? Like, that's where we're at now. And so, you know, what Jackson was saying in terms of what Coach Doran has produced at NC State, in the grand scheme of things, he has done a good job. There's NC State fans that will disagree with that, but historically speaking, NC State is like a 6-6, 7-5 program. Doran has won 8+ games, even 9 games a couple of times in the last 4 to 5 years. So he's done a good job at NC State. And when you go back to expectations, it's like, okay, well then what else do you want? Do you want 10 wins? Do you want a New Year's Six Bowl? Do you want an ACC championship? I mean, even less than that, an appearance in the ACC championship. We haven't even had one of those. So when you're in year 13 and you are empty-handed in the examples I just gave to you, it's the definition of fatigue. It's like, well, how much longer does he need to get to where we're at? And when you're looking at the 2025 season, the over-under for win total is 6.5. It's like, we're still doing this, I guess. I mean, what are we doing now? And so, yeah, it just feels like you're just spinning the tires in the mud, kind of hoping and praying that eventually you'll get unstuck and find 10 wins.
Well, we will circle back to Dave Doran, but when you talk about expectations, a team that has them, and they're very high this year, is Clemson. And another example of that, fellas, is I was going through, and shout out to Max Chadwick at Pro Football Focus, who is one of the big players who put this together. So PFF's top 50 players in college football for this season. I looked through that top 10 expecting to see almost all, SEC with some Big Ten sprinkled in. In fact, Ohio State has the top 2 players in the country, Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. But a lot of Clemson in that top 10, fellas. 3 Clemson Tigers in the top 10, according to Pro Football Focus best players. You got defensive lineman Peter Woods at number 3. Then you've got Cade Klubnik at number 7, Clemson's quarterback. And at the end of that top 10, edge rusher TJ Parker. Now, Kenton and I, we did a crossover episode with Locked On Nittany Lions, Zach Seiko, and he was really pushing the angle of, hey, maybe we get Clemson versus Penn State in the national title game. I mean, guys, just based on all the hype coming in for the Clemson Tigers, would you say this is a, maybe national championship appearance or at least deep college football playoff run season or bust for them?
Well, I
100%.
Wow, really? I don't think with what Dabo Swinney has done there, it's that or bust. I think it would be a letdown. I think it'll be a disappointment. But when I think of like a, hey, this or bust type season, I'm thinking like, if you don't get this, your seat gets hot. And I don't think that happens for I
don't think the seat's going to get hot. So is it a disappointment for him to not make a deep playoff run? Absolutely. I think we can agree there. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I 1,000% agree to that. That is something where, the talent's there. You bring back so much talent offensively. You bring back the most returning production in America. You get a defensive coordinator that was one of the best in the nation last year. When everybody knows Dabo Swinney and Brent Venables belong together. Okay, that's just what it is. So one of them needs to go outside the other's window with the boombox playing Mariah Carey, "We Belong Together," because they need to get back together. But Tom Allen, heck of a defensive coordinator as well.
you think that you solved the problems that you had defensively last year because their inability to stop the run was so uncanny for Clemson. You have never watched the Clemson team and thought the way to beat them, run the ball, get physical with them, get tough with them. And yet that counterintuitive as it was, that was the strategy last year. So I look at that team this year and I say the defensive line's another year older, star-studded as always, 2 of the top 10 players in America. The offense, K. Klubnik, has matured. The ugly little larva has developed into this beautiful butterfly that they expected coming in. And that wide receiving core, stars everywhere.
Yeah.
Guys that are going to be playing on Sundays everywhere. They should absolutely be looking at a deep playoff run or disappointment this year.
I think a couple years ago, they go 8-4 in the regular season, and we all started writing them off. I think that tells you all you need to know about the Clemson Tigers football program right now, which is they don't care about 8, 9, 10 regular season wins or any of that stuff. They want to be in the college football playoff, and they want to win a national championship. And so I think Clemson Tiger fans would probably tell you the goal is to win the national title this season. I'm sure if you put a lie detector test in front of them, they'd probably be okay with making the Final Four or something like that. But even then, it's like, you're Clemson. You've won 2 national titles in recent memory here. This is one of the elite programs in college football. Nobody's talking about Ohio State like, if Ohio State, if they make the college football playoff, is that successful or not? Like, no. Ohio State, did you win the national title? And number 2, did you beat Michigan? And you might want to flip that, honestly. I don't know what it is nowadays, what their priority is. Win the national title or beat Michigan, because last year it was I don't know. But that's my point. Alabama football this year, what do you think their expectation is? Win the national championship. If they don't win the national championship, what went wrong? We need major changes. All that fun stuff that all you like to do. So that's kind of where Clemson is. They need it's national championship, get there or bust. Otherwise, it's all right. It was another good year at Clemson, I guess. But that's how high the expectations are there relative to practically every other team in the country.
You heard it here first, folks. Jackson Hoser is a Thomas Castellanos truther. If the board doesn't win a championship this year, they don't have Nick Saban to save them. Take it away, Grace.
No, I was going to say, especially with Clemson, I think it's pretty well established that they are a blue blood. They're not a budding blue blood. They're not still blooming, figuring out. No, they are a blue blood. And when you are a blue blood, it is your expectation every year to play for a national championship. And this year is no different. In fact, they might have a better team this year than they did last year. And so
yes,
I know
believe they do.
Their football team, they use the hashtag all in. They're all in. I guarantee you that if you ask any person on that team, their goal is a national championship. Now, to Kenton's point, if they play in the semifinal, is that a failure of a year? I wouldn't say so. But all these lists that are coming out, like top 5 quarterback and Klubnik's in it, top 5 defense, top 5 this, top 5 that, top 50 players in the country, and they have 3 in the top 10. All that really tells me, it just kind of reconfirms everything. In the ACC specifically, it's Clemson and it's everybody else. They have the most talented team, probably the best coaching staff. They got Tom Allen now as their DC. That's crazy. I don't think that gets talked about enough. It's Clemson and it's everyone else in the ACC. And then you zoom out big picture. I do think Clemson can make a very deep run in the CFP. They might even find themselves at the very end.
Coming up next, when Thomas Castellanos made his comments about Nick Saban, I think Big Nick took it personally because now there's all this chatter. He wants to coach again. Is there any team in the ACC that could be a fit? You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on the squad. When we were having our pre-show chat, the NC State contingent, they may have talked us into something here. All right? Because, all right, so if Nick Saban and Greg McElroy said this during SEC Media Days, which are going on this week, we'll have ACC Media Days. I'll be out there. Kenton will be out there. Maybe can I convince Jackson, Grayson, you coming out there this year? We can get you guys out there.
I will not be there, unfortunately. Couldn't make it, but cheering you guys on.
How dare you? So, Greg McElroy and then Lane Kiffin also commented on it, hinting that Saban is getting that itch. He's been retired for about a year and a half, but apparently he wants to come back to coaching. I wonder if that could be maybe he tries to scratch the NFL itch again and win a Super Bowl. It's one thing he hasn't done, but we already have Bill Belichick coaching North Carolina. And Kenton, you talked me into the idea that if we could get Bill Belichick on the UNC sidelines against Nick Saban on the NC State sidelines, you talk about bringing that rivalry back to national prominence. I think we just did it.
Hear me out. Nick Saban, before Alabama, and excluding the Miami Dolphins, where were his last head coaching stops, right? LSU. Traditionally, LSU has not been seen as like, hey, they're the big dogs on the block in the SEC. Traditionally,
not before he got there.
Exactly. They were seen as, they're right there. They've always got the talent, but they never quite got there, right? Where was he at before LSU? Michigan State, a place that lived in a relative shadow to the national brand that is the University of Michigan. Michigan's a Jordan school. North Carolina's a Jordan school. Why not play the foe to a school that's a Jordan school? I know they run a Jordan school back then. I get it. I understand. Hear me out. Follow me here, Miss Terry. North Carolina Springs, they're wonderful. It's a wonderful time. It's a great time, okay? I know y'all want to get out all that heat and humidity in Georgia. I know y'all don't like all that. Listen, come on up to North Carolina. We got mild seasons. It might be a little bit rainy from time to time, but it's mostly mild here. I think that this is a great place to retire. We got your old buddy Mac Brown out of retirement to come on to the Triangle. Come on to the Triangle and decide to keep whooping on North Carolina. Come on, Nick. We're here for you. They need a new coach. They keep saying they want a new coach at Raleigh. Who would be the better new coach for Raleigh than a school that built their tradition, hands in the dirt, ag school? Nick Saban, it's a match made in heaven if you ask me. If you get the itch, Nick, you got our number. Give us a call.
I actually think this makes a lot of sense because first of all, I think NC State basketball hiring Will Wade changed a lot of how I felt about NC State because I never felt before they hired Will Wade, and I know it's a different sport, that they had the finances to actually do something like that. And then to not only hire him, but then double down and see what they did in the portal. It's kind of amazing what NC State did. It's just like they popped out of nowhere. Like, we're going to fire our coach, and I don't know what we're going to do. And then, we're going to hire like the hottest guy on the market. And then we're going to go ham in the transfer portal. Where did that all come from? What happened there? So I'm thinking about NC State football, and I hear this stuff about Nick Saban, and I'm like, Well, you've had Dave Doran for so long, and he's done a good job, at least from an outsider perspective, relative to NC State expectations, but he's been there for so long, and you want more than what he's given you. Well, how many other coaches on the market are going to be able to give more than Dave Doran? Probably not many. Chances are NC State would probably be looking at some coordinator from another school and hoping that coordinator becomes the next Nick Saban. Well, what if I told you that guy that's available is actually Nick Saban? It's probably a risk because he's been out of coaching for a little bit now. This is going to be his second year out. It's a different era from when he was coaching, although he kind of, at the end of his tenure, got more into the NIL and the transfer portal and all that. But still, it's different now than it was 5 years ago when he was at Alabama. Even then, 5 years, it's different times nowadays in college football. But still, it's Nick freaking Saban. He would come to NC State and probably overnight, assuming they would also keep CJ Bailey, by the way, he could put that team in the playoff in year one. He would probably recruit like crazy. Everyone would want to play for him in the transfer portal. If NC State's open up the checkbook for him, they're going to open up the checkbook as well in the portal with NIL. I think it's a good fit in the ACC.
What you've seen with Belichick at the blue school down the street, Nick Saban coming to Raleigh, North Carolina would dwarf that exponentially.
Oh, yeah.
The passion of the NC State fan base is not something that gets talked about a whole lot on a national scale because we haven't accomplished a whole lot, but you would see a reckoning on the football side. We talk about it basketball. You would hear it. Dono, you would hear it in South Florida if Nick Saban arrived in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's so funny that Kent and I have not discussed this before right now, and he immediately tried to petition Miss Terry. That was my scheme that I was going to do. I know nothing about Miss Terry, but I feel like she loves a nice garden. I will garden that woman's garden every single day if she chooses
You'll be the
to
old
make
personal
home.
gardener.
Yeah. Me and Grayson will be there.
Whatever it
We'll be
takes.
there. We got to make sure that the legumes and we got to make sure that they're rotating right, all that good stuff.
Well,
Make sure that
you
Wait,
know
with all
what?
due
You're
respect, they could
absolutely
probably
right
hire a
to recruit-
professional to do it
I mean,
themselves.
Well, I mean, but
I'll be the
recruiting Terry Saban, that's the right strategy because Miss
Yes.
Terry, because I remember when, Nick spent those 2 brief years with the Miami Dolphins, one of the reasons why he left was Terry Saban did not like Miami.
Yep.
Now, they got a place in Palm Beach, which is close to Miami, but it's very different from Miami. She didn't want to be in Miami anymore. That was one of the reasons why he took that Alabama job, and that worked out pretty well for him.
Let me tell you something, Dono. I've been doing recruiting for, in terms of, recruiting for regular jobs and tech and all that for almost a decade now. When you're hiring executives, you always got to check in with the missus or the mister. If you win them, you don't want the candidate, okay? I done signed some $1 million deals, and I'm telling you, the way that I get it done every time, well, let's talk to your old lady. Let's get her in here. Let's get her in the car. Come on, let's get the kids here. Yeah, let's get the dog. Let's get Sparky in here. Let's see how it feels. And I'm telling you, Miss Terry, you will love the triangle. Okay, they got everything you can want. We got everything. We got the RTP. We got the wineries and all that. We got whatever you can want. We got the mountains. We got the beach. You name it, we got it.
Especially
I'm honestly
too,
looking at other. Sorry, Trent. You can go, Grace.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. I was honestly looking at the other teams in the ACC, and I'm really trying to figure out where else Nick Saban would maybe fit.
But what about Florida State? Florida State, if Norvell,
yeah, but
fails
would he
this
take
year?
that job?
Yeah.
Would he want to
I
be
feel like
up
he would
there
want,
in,
like-
in,
I feel
like
he'd
in the
want, like,
Panhandle,
lower
or you want to be in
states, if that makes
Tallahassee?
sense.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you just said they left the state of Florida because they didn't like it last time. And you're walking into
No, they
something
left
that
Miami. It's
Well, that's
Tallahassee's
different.
very
I'm
different.
just wondering if
Yeah.
they would care about Northern Florida.
But you know that
I don't
that's
know.
going to be a pressure cooker from day one as opposed to
Yes.
NC State. Like if you get NC State to 10 wins, great job. If you get Florida State to 10 wins and you leave them there perpetually, they're going to get an itch to replace you. They're going to get the itch. Like, what the hell is he doing getting us to 10 wins and that's it? At NC State, you'll get built a statue. You'll get built a statue.
How many teams in the ACC right now would drop everything that they're doing and hire Nick Saban as their head coach? How many teams?
Oh, about 3/4 of them easily.
All of them but Clemson, probably.
I would say probably all but Clemson. That's
Yeah.
probably it.
Hold on. No. Syracuse, there's no way they would fire Fran to go get Nick Saban. With what he's done so far in Syracuse,
they
New
wouldn't do
York.
it now. They wouldn't do it now, but I'm sure if Syracuse were to not make a bowl this season, and even with all the recruiting, if you told me Nick Saban's available, I'd be like, well, you know what? Like,
But also, like, just to play devil's advocate, like, I'm not going to sit here because I know we obviously Nick Saban, no question, best.
this is Nick
college head coach of
Saban
all
that we're
time.
talking about.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but it's 73-year-old Nick Saban.
Exactly.
Retired.
Exactly.
But 73-year-old Nick
71-year-old
Saban
Nick
retired.
Saban was in the playoff.
But that's the thing. Like, he didn't like the transactional nature that college football has become. Like, he retired because he didn't want to deal with this era. And now we're talking about him 2 years later coming back. Like, I don't think this is the perfect hire that it would have been 5 or 6 years ago.
Like I said, 3/4 of the ACC would absolutely drop everything. But the people who have a true up-and-comer or you're at the top already, you're not replacing your coach. I'm sorry. Do you think Miami would realistically say, Mario, get your tail out the door? Nick's here
No,
now.
they wouldn't.
The guy who
They would
exactly. Most other teams would, but if you got an up-and-comer or you at the top already, hey, actually, I'm good. With all due respect, I think the best team I would consider it is Georgia Tech. And I don't think they think about it too long because I think that Key loves that place. He's an alum. He bleeds that school. He bleeds Georgia Tech. He wants that team to be great so bad. I could see them considering it, but I think they would stick with them. And I think they're the best team I would consider. Everybody else above them, there's no way.
With all due respect to Brent Key and Georgia Tech, if Nick Saban says, I want to coach Georgia Tech, he's coaching Georgia Tech. It's that simple. It's Georgia Tech. Like, hello?
For short-term
It doesn't
returns,
fit the narrative of like, oh, you're kind of like the second fiddle school and you're going to take them. I mean, they're second fiddle of the University of Georgia.
right?
They're in the
But,
ACC. I mean,
but for short-term gains, that helps Georgia Tech. For long-term, you just kicked out an alum that was beloved to get a 73-year-old.
for Nick it's not 73-year-old Joe Schmo off the street here. It's Nick Saban. So, yeah, with all due respect to Brent Key and Georgia Tech, right? Has Georgia Tech been in the college football playoff? No. Have they been in the ACC title game?
Yes.
Not recently.
A few 4 or 5 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, they
still
went
the Paul Johnson era.
Paul Johnson there. Yeah, they went in the Paul
Paul
Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay. But have they really done that much? Okay, there you go. There's your answer. Like, I'm sorry. I mean, look, if Georgia Tech were to go out and they'd win, 11 games and everything like that, and no, cool. Yeah, of course they're not going to fire Brent Key for Nick Saban. But you know what? They go out, they win 7, 8 games. That's cool. Nick Saban wants to coach Georgia Tech? Absolutely. They're going to hire him and say, you know what, Brent Key, I appreciate you. You're an alum. You're always welcome here. But you know what, Nick Saban?
Stepping on the toes of an alum that has your program ascending for a guy that's been retired for 2 years is not good business. It's just not. Regardless of how good that guy is.
If he wins a national title with Georgia Tech, that's good business.
Yeah. Well, then all of a sudden,
college football player with Georgia Tech, that's good business.
Well, if you guarantee a national championship, everywhere would take him, including Miami. If you take you're guaranteeing a national championship,
take him to a national title, or is it who is more likely to win a national championship, Brent Key or Nick Saban? You pick. You might only have a few years with Nick Saban, but in those few years, you might actually do the thing. Or at very minimum, you're probably going to make the college football playoff and consistently compete for ACC titles.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry. I'll take that 3 years because I don't know if Brent Key's really ever going to be able to do that.
I think he's right, and we'll leave it on that note because, man, we went a little long. Sorry, Jarvis. We appreciate everyone. We appreciate everyone for making the ACC Squad your first listen. Make sure you check out not only all of our other shows, Locked on Canes, Locked on ACC, of course, Locked on Syracuse, Locked on Wolfpack, but make sure you check out all the other great shows, including Locked on SMU. So that's the newest show on the college channel. Want to welcome in a team that nearly won the ACC last year. We're so glad that they have now a voice here on this network. We'll talk to everyone next time on another episode of The Squad right here on the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.